Awesome. Welcome to another episode of Fight the Burnout. Sorry, got a bit of laughter going on. Jasmine and I were having a bit of a crack up before we started recording. This will be the last episode of this season, where we are interviewing, everybody and anybody. Next season, it's going to be targeted towards first responders and law enforcement, as they are in one of the most stressful positions, especially the last couple of years. So we're going to interview a whole bunch of them. We've got a whole bunch of really good people on the books. But today we've got Jasmine back, my very good friend. I love Jasmine, and also her boyfriend, partner, whatever she calls him, Brad, who's a mentor of mine, a very good friend, and we've slept in the same tent together at times. So we're all very close here. And so I wanted to get Jasmine back because on the last episode that we did, if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it. We talked a little bit about traveling and solo travel and the importance of traveling and just moving around. And so we decided to hop back on here and have a conversation around what it means, and how it can help you. Whether that be, with the restrictions that are going on right now, wherever you are in the world, whether it be just traveling in your own little country, in your own little city, or being able to travel overseas, depending on where you are. Uh, in the US, very lucky, you can travel around all over the place, and I've done a lot of travel there, and it's very nice. Here in New Zealand, you got some nice things, but it's a lot smaller. So no matter where you are, we can apply this to it. So yeah, Jasmine, thanks for being here again. And I want to hear about what is the number one travel kind of, when you think about that soul finding travel trip, what's yours?
Mine was California. Yeah, it was after I left my 9 to 5 and was building a business. I should say trying to build a business because I don't know. I guess I did to some extent build a business, but I thought, oh my gosh, I changed all my circumstances, right? I changed my career, I changed where I live, I dumped my boyfriend, like I didn't have any of that baggage anymore. So why the heck am I still having such a hard time emotionally? And there was a Tony Robbins event, Unleash the Power Within, that someone brought up on a call I was on. It was just like a business call. Never heard of the guy before. And my best friend and I were like, we're going to go to that. And it was in San Jose, California, which is north. It's kind of it's near-ish to San Francisco, the Bay Area. And I thought, you know what? I think I'm gonna make a trip of this, which honestly was probably just my lack mindset around if I have to buy a trip to California, buy a plane ticket to California, I better get the most out of it.
Yeah.
Like I honestly think that was and I was like, okay, well, yeah, let's do that. And so I flew to San Diego and traveled up the coast for 3 weeks and landed in San Jose, went to the event, and then flew out of San Jose. And the whole time I was alone. I mean, I met up with friends along the way for sure, but it was just about me reconnecting. I call it my soul adventure because it was one of the first time, well, really the first time that I went on a long extended trip just with myself. And I worked while I was there. It's not like I was off the whole time, but it was really just about reconnecting who I am, what I want, what I stand for, turning off all of my current influences of family, friends, etc., and just going out to a place where I can just, reconnect with me. So that's what I mean. There's been others since then, but that's the first one.
That's the one that your mind goes to when you think of
Yeah.
it. Yeah, awesome, awesome. What did you learn from it?
I learned that I love silence.
Hmm.
I learned that I am a powerful manifester.
Hmm.
I learned that I really like myself.
When you say you
Like
really like yourself, is it that you really like just who you are, or that you like being on your own?
I like being on my own. I like spending time with myself.
Mm.
I like spending time in my own energy without any other kind of interferences. Um, and yeah, I learned that California is definitely a soul destination for myself, for sure. I only found this years later, but they have this thing called astrocartography. Have you heard of it?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so you're familiar with if I say, hey, what's your sign? You would tell me
Aries.
Okay, cool. So now the Aries, right? That what's your sign is the sign that the sun was in at the moment of your birth.
Yeah.
But we have all these other planets. And so when you map all those planets and where they were, like which, are they in Aries? Are they in Sagittarius? Are they in Virgo? Are they in Leo, etc.? You get a more complete picture of who you are because these different planets rule different aspects of you. Now, the sun sign is like kind of like the sign of the personality, people say. It's like how people perceive you, how people see you. And astrocartography takes that and puts it on a map of the world. And you have lines, so these different lines running through different locations. My sun sign runs directly through San Diego. It also runs directly through Lisbon, which is another place I went to, and I just felt so alive and like myself and like, oh my God, like I'm home, right? Like we've had that sensation before when you go to a place and you weren't expecting it.
Yeah.
Well, then I found astrocartography and I was like, holy cow, this stuff is real because the sensation I felt when being in those two places really was like so lit up, super turned on, super bright, just like I feel like the most me version of me. So it was fascinating as well.
I'm gonna look into that because I'm
You
intrigued.
should.
I'm intrigued on that because I wonder if Kristen's has something to do with Hawaii because she's like that with Hawaii. The first time we went to Hawaii, she was like, "Oh my God." Yeah, no, it's crazy how we find these different things. So how'd you find that there? Like
I don't even remember. I think I just stumbled upon it.
Interesting.
I maybe an Instagram post or a friend mentioned it. I don't even remember, but yeah, it was a fascinating discovery.
Why do you think that trip was is so impactful for you?
I think it was shedding all the layers of being in a classroom, being in a low income classroom, working 80-hour weeks, just grinding for those years and going through trauma and not really having the tools to deal with trauma, and put that on back of, an upbringing and a college experience, which had a lot of pressure to it, pressure to perform, achieve, overachieve, be an A player. And it was like the first time I could go and just be me without worrying about what people around me are thinking, without worrying who I'm supposed to be for someone else, without like all the pressure. It was just like all the pressure was released and I could do whatever the fuck I wanted, whenever the fuck I wanted. Like I didn't have to answer to anyone else or anything else. It was just like space. It was pure space. And so it was just shedding all that stuff and realizing, oh, like the only reason I do that is because of that. It was very like heightened my awareness around a lot of my patterns as well, but I could just let them go because I could easily see what they were because of the contrast of being completely like on my own, in a new place with new environment, new surroundings. And my thought patterns, they couldn't stay the same because there was all this new external input.
Yeah.
So when I settled, if something snapped back into an old pattern, I'd be like, oh, that's weird. Why do I normally think like that? Why do I normally do that?
When you left, did you have an idea of what you kind of wanted to accomplish as such, or was it like some sort of outcome you wanted from that trip, or?
I did name it my soul adventure before I went, I think. And it was about like, I did have an intention to like rediscover myself and reinvent myself.
Yeah. No, the reason I asked that is because it's very similar to like mine. Like mine, but for those that haven't listened or haven't listened to episode 1, but when I left the police, same thing. I was broken. Like I will say I was broken.
Yes.
Very broken, lots of trauma. Didn't know who I was, didn't know any of it, and I went through a bunch more pain to go. I'm going on a trip, and I'm going to go ride a motorcycle around the U.S. And same thing. I named it. I don't know if I named it before I left, but I knew I put a task on it that I'm going to go find myself again, and so that's what I did. And it's the same exact thing. It was like I am gonna go find myself, and so the whole everything that came about during the trip was finding myself, talking with people, telling my story, ran into cops, and I identified, hey, I don't want to be like that cop that's 40 years in the job that's now retired and looks exactly like who I don't want to be. I'm like, wow, that's just, wow, no. And had, talked to people, I realized, you liked being alone. I realized that I like being alone at times, but I like being around people. I like having people around. I like to be able to, even if it's just that we're all just sitting in the same room doing nothing, I still like to have people around.
And I'm like my favorite thing is when Brad goes on trips.
Yeah.
Because even just having him, even if I'm alone, but having him in the house gives me a different energy than like if he's gone from the house and like for more than a day. I love the pieces, but it's very is invigorating for me.
Yeah, I like having people around that we're doing I like having people around, but then at the same time, I do like that as well. There's times where I'm like, no, everybody just gone, and that's again, I think that's what like on the motorcycle, it was I'm on my own, but then I'd be places and I'd be like, okay, where are the people? Where are the people? I want to meet people. And so then I ended up, meeting other guys on the motorcycle trip and that. And so I realized that I like doing that and I like bringing people together. And you start to recognize these things when you go on these, and the whole purpose of this episode is to talk about the importance of doing these trips, and sometimes doing them alone. I still do it now. Just after New Year's, I went and did a trip on my own. Went and saw my friend because again, I want to see people. Went and stayed with my friends, but then during the day, even though they were off work, I'd go off and I'd do motorcycle ride for the whole day, 5-6 hours of riding. Then I'd come back and I'd see people. And so you find these different things. If you can go and do these trips on your own and do like more than just a couple of days, you'll really start to find you. You'll really find what you enjoy, what you don't. And then you can bring it back to your normal world or your everyday world and apply it. And then sometimes you fall off of it and you go back to those old habits and then you gotta go do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there are ways to baby step into it. Do you know Liz Gilbert? She wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
I know the book. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So she's the author. She also has written a book called Big Magic, which is all about tapping into the power of your creativity. And she slipped in there very subtly, but I caught it because I know it to be true for myself also, is just take yourself out to breakfast once a week. Just take yourself out to breakfast once a week and you will be amazed at what comes into your life, because just that time to honor you yourself, take yourself in a journal just to breakfast once a week. What would you say to someone who's afraid? Because I get this a lot, is especially for women, but I have a lot of people have said, I could never do that. I could never go on a trip by myself. I could never do that. What would you say to them?
I'd ask them why.
And usually they don't even know. They're just I've never done it before. I just don't think I could do that.
I'd ask why. What's the fear? What are you afraid of? And this is where the coaching side kind of starts to come out. But anybody can do it. You can, if you are a good friend with somebody, you'll ask questions of somebody and their decision making and what they're doing. Not from a place of better, but from a place of letting them discover things. So for me, I'd be like, what are you afraid of? And I'd also ask, what is the worst that can happen? And I know for women, it's different. The guys, especially going off into areas. My mom did, after I did my trip, my mom did a year around the U.S. in a car. She bought a car. She went over there, bought a van, kitted out with a mattress in the back, and did travel all around the whole U.S. pretty much on her own. Single woman. She had some sketchy times where she's actually looking back on that, holy crap, that was a drug deal. Holy crap, that person could have killed me. Holy crap, but she's but she didn't have those thoughts when going into it because the purpose of the trip was greater than the fear of those. So I would ask, what are you afraid of?
Yeah. I think that's what it comes down to, is what's the pain you're avoiding?
Yeah.
And so many times we're focused more on the pain that we're avoiding than being open to the magic that's waiting for us.
Yeah. The outcome that can happen.
Yeah. And I mean, as a woman, don't be stupid. You know,
Use
like,
that gut, use that gut feeling. Women have the best gut feeling, and guys get in their head way too much. Women can sit in their heart and their gut so easily.
right. It's like, don't be stupid. If it's dark, maybe don't go out
Yeah,
unless you have people.
yeah,
You know, like, know where the car is, have a lay of the land, like all those things my dad taught me growing up, like, don't be an idiot, Jasmine, right? like real life, real life such things that are supportive. But it's also like, I just think being afraid of the world, how how is that
if
serving
you're
me?
afraid of the world, like this is what I, coaching people all the time. I'm constantly going, where else does this pop up in your life? Because we
Mhm.
know that if you're honest with yourself, we know that if one thing's happening in one place, it's going to be happening somewhere else as well. So if you're afraid of going off and being on your own, where else are you afraid? And is it the same fear?
Mhm.
You
And I
know,
think that's what it comes down to for a lot of people, is they're afraid to be alone. They
yes,
say, I'm afraid of the travel, but they're not really. That's kind of exciting to them. They're afraid to be with, like, truly be with themselves.
yeah, yeah. And that's why it's easier to go on a trip with a friend.
Right. And it's like, truly be with yourself and then see your own shit, because you will, and then be like, I love you anyway.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And people are. There's so much easy. It's so much easier for somebody to go on a trip with somebody else because then they don't have to sit within themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And,
But
and, and
man, when you do that,
yeah, yeah. Oh,
the other side of that is like, you have a confidence that no one can touch.
oh,
Like, if you really know yourself and you went on this journey or multiple journeys and you saw your crap and you realize you're doing all these things for all the wrong reasons, and you can look yourself in the mirror and be like, you know what, sister, that's okay. I love you anyway. And we're going to get through this. And I freaking believe in you. You like, wow, the confidence that comes on the other end. And when that you have that confidence, what that opens up for you
oh,
in your health, in your relationships, in your career, in your business, like, it's,
exponential. It's
yeah,
exponential when you can actually
insane.
face your own fears. Face your
Mm-hmm.
own demons, as I call them.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the day I walked into Date with Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
I still had the anxiety around crowds. And if you've never
Mm-hmm.
been to a Date with Destiny, like mine comes from my policing.
Sure.
And so, and the what ifs and the suicide bombers and the threats and the this, that, and the other thing. Even though there's security when you go in, I sat there and I
Mm-hmm.
watched them and I went, this guy does not have a clue what he's doing. When it came to the security and searching bags, I was like, what the hell? And so my police brain and police thing was going crazy the day I walked in. So for those that aren't familiar with Date with Destiny, it used to be, not so much anymore, but it used to be the one that I went to, 5,000 people in a conference room of all walks of life. And I walked in there and I went, 5,000 people. Oh my God, this is okay. But then I went, and again, from my soul searching trip, I had to force myself once again to talk to people I didn't know or possibly didn't trust. I've got a really good story. Remind me to tell you a story about a gas station.
Okay. I have about a gas station.
Yeah, what's that?
I have a story about a gas station
Well, there we
too.
go. We're gonna have to talk about the story about the gas stations. But and it's because it was a pivotal changing moment in my life, the gas station story. But so I walked into Date with Destiny with all these people, and I stopped for a second. My wife actually turned and went, "You okay?" And I went, "I will be," because I focused on I need the purpose, the why am I here? Why is that coming up? And I went, okay, these people are here to better themselves, just like I am. So the chance is very slim. And then the end of the first day, he has everybody put in their thing that they have done, that they classify as the worst thing in the world that they've ever done. And there's people in there that have done, like, as a cop, I'm sitting there going, whoa, these people need to be locked the fuck up. And then I went, well, wait a second, all these people are here to better themselves. And they wouldn't put that piece of paper in the thing and let him read them if they were not wanting to change. And so that kind of shifted and changed me. And I went, I know what I need to do. If something goes bad, I know what I need to do. And there's this two people. I need to know where my mom is and where my wife is. And I'll make shit happen because I've got training. So you rely on what you do know as well as, when you have those fears. Now the story about the gas station. Um, I pulled up into a gas station on my motorcycle, and I had bungees that held my bag to the back of the bike. So you could literally, if somebody wanted to steal my shit, you just cut the bungees and walk away with my bag. That's literally was that simple. Or just unclip the bungees and walk away with my bag. And so I was at this gas station and I stopped to fill it with gas, and there's a homeless guy sitting just by the front door. And my police brain, those fears, those irrational stuff that I was purposely working on, went, oh my God, he's going to try and steal my bag. And so instead of actually going, okay, well, I'm just going to drive to a different gas station, or I'm going to, this person's bad. Instead, what I did is I faced that fear. And I went and I talked to the guy. And I went, okay, cool. I went, hey, how's it going? Interacted with him. Again, training side of stuff. Interact with somebody, look at them. If you think that it's possibly a threat, look at them. 90% of the time, they won't do anything because they know that you've looked at them. And you can identify them. And so I did. I said hi, blah, blah, blah. And then I went inside and I paid for the gas. And I came outside and I went, Chris, you're staying in your old patterns. You're not changing. This is not changing. This is staying in your old fears of everything else. And so instead, I completely shifted and changed myself 100%. And I went up to the guy and I went, how's it going? Sat down, had a conversation with him. Turns out he's a vet, has had, again, the normal story that you hear, has, had stuff, struggled to get back onto his feet and that. And so I sat there and I talked with him and went, it was first thing in the morning. I went, do you drink coffee? And he's like, yeah. I was like, cool, come on in. I'll get you a coffee. And he's like, oh, thanks so much. Took in. I was like, and get anything else that you want food wise. Now, I was doing this trip on a budget, had like $50 a day. That included gas to kind of spend. But I was like, just get whatever you want. And he grabbed a coffee and he's like, oh, I'm good. I was like, no, dude, like grab some other stuff, like whatever you kind of need in that. And he did. And then we sat down and had another conversation further about like his life and about my story and about all these different things. And what it taught me was face your fucking fears. And face them head on and uncover them and figure out where they come from. Because once you can actually unlock that, then you can actually do so much more good. You have so much more potential because you're not sitting in this, oh, that person's bad, so I just have to stay away from them. And so that's kind of the moral of my gas station thing. And so after that, it was like every gas station I was at, I was talking to people. I was like, oh. And like, it changed me right then and there because I was like, people aren't bad. People are just their circumstance. They have had circumstances happen just like I had. People could have looked at me as a bad person for years. But, so yeah. What was your gas station story?
Kind of similar. I was driving across the country. We were in Memphis. Had Junie in the back seat. It's my pit bull. And Memphis, I was staying in a decent part of town, but it was weird. It was like one street would look like totally normal and safe, and the next street looked really dodgy. So I turned, I guess, a corner. I don't know. I pulled into this gas station. It doesn't look like a great gas station, but like I'm trying to get on the road. It's fine. It's close. I pull in. I start gassing, I step out of my car. And as I'm stepping out of my car to go around to gas up the tank, I hear this doom, doom, doom bass. And you can hear this car coming from like a long way away. Next thing you know, this car pulls into the gas bay next to me. It's like this blue Ford Expedition and totally beat up, banged up. Like one of the windows was blown out, right? And this guy gets out and he kind of comes around the corner, right? Because our cars are parallel enough that when he's gassing up his tank, he can see me and we can kind of see each other. So by this point, I'd put my gas in the tank or put the nozzle in the tank, and I'm walking around to get back in my car because my dad, like,
don't be stupid.
Car,
yeah,
right. Yeah. But at least then you're in the car. You can get away if you need to drive.
Yeah.
And so the guy's gassing up his tank, and he's looking at Junie because she's adorable, and then he's looking at me, and he's kind of trying to figure me out, right? And then he opens up his mouth to talk to me, and he has the biggest drill I have ever seen. Just like bald man in a white tank top, black guy, probably like 35, like muscles, Memphis, middle of the summer. And he starts talking about Juniper. And I'm like, yeah, that's my dog. You want to pet her? Come on over, come pet her. And so he comes and pets her, and we start talking about Juniper. And then, I go to get my gas tank out, and he says to me, he's kind of as we're parting, he's like, do you have a man? Now, this is where most women would cut and run. They'd get scared, they'd run away, But at this point, I've built a little rapport with this guy. We are safe. There's public watching. And I'm just like, yeah, I do. Because I was dating a guy in California. So I was like, yeah, I do. And he goes, I don't know why he's not with you, but you need to be careful around here. And I was like, all right, thank you for that. And he's like, God bless. You have a great day. I love your dog. And I was like, you got it. And so I think it just goes to show, like, a lot of women, when we're traveling, especially alone, we automatically think that men are the enemy, especially based on what they look like. And it's just not true. He was looking out for me the whole time. He was there because he was looking out for me. Not because now I've had encounters that go the opposite direction. So I'm not saying this is true all the time. I'm not saying just blind faith that every man out there is good, because that's not true. Same thing for women, right? But I am saying that kind of what you're saying, that like just because someone looks a certain way doesn't always match what's going on. And so, and it's like me, like friggin' little white chick, who knows what white women have done to him? Like who freaking knows what his past looks like? And yet he was still there, willing to like look out for me.
Yeah.
You don't know me.
And and the funniest thing is that he could have been that gang banger guy that was like does all this kind of horrible stuff, but yet, and this is where that gut feeling that I was saying comes in. Your initial thing was from your past was, he's scary, stay away, run away.
And not even from my past, but just from a sense of like, he's bigger and stronger than me. Full stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I taught in Detroit, I taught in Nashville. I have met more wonderful, amazing African-American Black dads than I can even count. Like truly. So it's like I do have that conception, that preconception, but yeah, it was just, you got to be smart. Like, yeah, these dudes are bigger and stronger and can overpower you. And if this was in dark at nighttime without anybody around, I would have responded.
Different. Yeah, totally different situation. And so it's listening to that. But, by doing these, we come back to the whole, purpose of this, conversation today. The whole point is the single traveling, if, being smart, as we've always said, can unlock your true potential, true findings, true beliefs, things that you are like, oh my God, I didn't realize this before, or oh my God, I have this pattern, or I do this thing, or I don't need to do this, or hey, there's an area of my life that has a massive gap and I need to learn how to overcome it. For example, if you are that scared of people and guys and that, figure out what you need to do, one, mentally, but two, also physically. If you're that fearful of it, go build some confidence, do some martial arts.
Yeah.
Take
a self-defense class.
Take a self-defense class. Or 2, or 3, or 4, get your black belt, whatever it is. But but without having those kind of experiences, you'll never know. And so really, these trips are so important. Like I still do them to this day, as you know, just after New Year's went and did my own, and I have such a supportive wife that's like, yeah, sweet, go. Go. And she knows that I need it. She knows that I need it. Same thing with her. I'm like, yeah, sweet, go. Go do what I need to.
Yeah, Brad goes as well. And I think that's a huge sign of a healthy relationship. I think when couples are together all the time and like can't travel without each other, don't go on trips with friends without each other, don't like, that's a big red flag to me that like something's out of balance.
Yeah.
So yeah. And that's something I've been really adamant about even before Brad, in all my other relationships, is like, you got to give me freedom to go do things on my own. And also, you need to have a freaking life outside of me because I can't be your everything.
And I want to talk about that for a little bit because that's so important. Because me personally, when I was a cop, I wasn't that way. I was a we need to be together all the time. And that's because of my past things and seeing, being growing up on a sailboat, all these different things that I was like, oh, I need to be around you all the time, and it had to do with abandonment stuff from as a kid and with parents, and as we know, it all links back to that. If you don't know, it does link all back
It
to
does.
that. Whether you want to believe it or
Newsflash.
not, it links all back. So I had all
Yeah.
these abandonment things in that, and so it was like I needed to be around Kristen all the time, and so I never was doing my own thing. So literally, I would do my own thing during my days off when she was working, but as soon as I knew she was going to be home at 4:35, in my mind it was she wants me to be inside and ready to go and be with her when she gets home. I had
Hmm.
this hardcore wiring in my brain of it, and then I've realized no, that actually has to do with the fact that my dad went to chiropractic school when I was a kid, when I was like 4, and I didn't want him to leave. So if
Hmm.
I can cling on, they won't leave. So I had nothing to do with her. And once you recognize these things, and again, I recognize some of this stuff from trips, from being on my own, and from actually going and traveling and going, hey, wait a second, this is fun. And then come back and she'd be like, hey, how did it go? Blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, hey, what did you get up to? And she's off doing her own thing, didn't even care about all of it. She just wanted to know I was safe during the whole trip.
Yeah. And it's curious too, like where you go and what you can unlock. Like I remember in London when I went to the UK quite a bit because this is where I'm from originally. And yeah, in London they have they're just more open there in a lot of ways. They're
Mm,
more open in relationships, they're more open sexually, they're more, open when it comes to career. Like even like marriage, like I have a ton of family members and friends over there, they've been in partnerships for years, but like getting married is never the thing like it is in the States. Like in
mm.
the States, like if you're going to be with someone you get married, and over there it's not like that. It's like we're just together, and that's just what it is. So they have all these different kinds of similar culture to this US but different in a lot of ways too. And so I would get into like meetup groups and go to like events and like check local community boards. And I would go and learn about these concepts within a culture that sees things differently. It's a lot easier to find access to those resources in a place like London or even in the UK in general. Like they just have some more spiritual shops everywhere, stuff like that, than here in the States, right? Because I mean, where I grew up, there was like one metaphysical shop. And I grew up in a major city, the biggest city inside of the state, which was Virginia.
Yeah.
So it, you can unlock different things about yourself, but you can also learn about different cultural elements that you want to learn about by traveling in a place where that's kind of normal for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, no, it is. And you learn so much about yourself, and you learn so many new tools and skills, and you might learn that, hey, actually, I don't like this, but I do really like this. So, and it's not something that I'm taught where I'm from, but it's something that I can actually do. So, yeah, it is. It's so important. Also, I think even if you're traveling with other people, to actually look for those things as well,
Mm-hmm.
and not be shy again to go off on your own if you have to, or go, hey, let's go do this, and actually speak up about things. It's so, yeah, travel is one of those things, and I think for so many, like I know for myself and from Kristen and that, being in like a place like New Zealand, where to go anywhere besides maybe the South Island, which is awesome, but we're the sides of the West Coast, those
Mm-hmm.
3 states, you can only you only see so much. And we like to see those new cultures and learn those new things, and it's been a massive struggle, during the last couple of years around these, because we haven't been able to travel. So it's finding, and we talked about in the beginning that we'd talk about this, finding within your own place those as well. Meeting new people that aren't necessarily like minded like you, and actually having an open conversation around their beliefs, their thoughts, their wants, their needs, so you can learn more and new intriguing things and expand things. And yeah, it's one of those things that you have to consciously and consistently find, especially if you're restricted in any ways. And I'm a huge person that does not like to be restricted, so it's been a lot of hard work for me. um,
Um,
yeah, the back of my shirt says freedom right now, and it says it for a reason. But at the same time, having the lack of freedom in a way gives
Mhm.
you more freedom
Yeah.
because you
Hmm.
start to look at things different. You start to look at how can I create freedom out of what I have. We just came out of a 5 month lockdown as such here in Auckland, and all freedoms were taken, and instantly I went into a dark place again. And I was like, and thinking back on it now, I did during it as well, I was like, wow, I don't like this. And I was like, why? And I was like, it's because all my freedoms are taken away. I'm very passionate about freedom. And so it's one of those things that you have to find what you're passionate about in different ways as well, I feel. And
Hmm.
being able, and when you travel or you do any kind of little travel, even if the travel for you has to be because all you can do is walk down the road, shift the focus of, hey, I get to travel down the road.
Hmm.
Because there's somebody around the world that can't travel down the road.
Yep. Yeah. It's very
um,
true. We still have that. Me and Brad still want to go on that Japan trip with
yeah.
you two someday when the world is
Someday.
open again.
Someday. In a galaxy far, far away. Yeah, no, like we talked about, we literally were talking about that just the other day. And so having those ambitious, those goals for the future as well, even if you can't do them now, I think is really important. What do you think about that as well?
Yeah, I think if you can only control what you can control.
Mm,
So if you're limited, then okay, you're limited. And you
yeah,
just do what you can. You do the best that you can. We're pretty blessed that we live in Arizona now, where it's pretty open, to whatever. But that is to say, like, we can't, we had plans to go different places and just doesn't feel right, doesn't feel safe, doesn't feel aligned for us to go at the moment. And so we're just doing the best we can, staycations, places close to home, getting out of the house, but still going and doing things.
yeah.
That's
Having a
that's the best
purpose.
we can do. And similarly, like from a solo perspective, I take myself out to coffee. I
Mm,
take myself out to do things, to uncover new places in my general area. And honestly, if I could travel, I might not be doing those as often because I'd be more focused on, hey, we're going to Greece this year or whatever
yeah,
it is.
yeah. No,
So,
it is. It's so true.
mhm,
Always
yeah.
driving from that purpose and that why do you need it? Why are you wanting it? And you'll start with one purpose, and I can guarantee you'll find that there's about six different other things, like levels of it, that you're like, holy cow, I didn't realize that, except for the fact that I just started with something. um,
Yeah.
and it comes back to that whole, if you're able to do big trips in that as well, or if you're in your country and you haven't ever traveled around your country, well, go have a look.
Mm-hmm.
I've traveled a lot. I grew up sailing around the world for 5 years. I have seen places. I'm spoiled, more spoiled than probably most people, a lot of people on this planet when it comes to travel. And so for me, I do travel and I love to travel, but my wife is really the driver of, hey, let's go see this new, let's go to, before the pandemic. And then it was like, let's go do all these things. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. And, she'd plan them all, and we do that. And then as I've gotten older and after I've done my trip and that, it's like, okay, cool. I want to see this and I want to see that and I want to go do this. And so there's two different dynamics there. So it's almost, instead of, it's not a solo trip, but there's solo aspects to it where I go, I want to go do this. And then she'll come along and then she'll be like, I want to go do this, and we'll go do this. And so it's bringing that in, but also taking, right now, if you're only able to travel your country like I am right now, is go see it. There's
Mm-hmm.
areas of New Zealand that I haven't seen before. Like last year, I wouldn't have done what we call the Burt Monroe, which is like the Sturgis of the Southern Hemisphere. But because I'm only allowed to travel my country, I took 19 days and I traveled the country from one end pretty much to the other on my motorcycle. So find those different ways that you can do it that brings that passion, and you'll start to uncover things. I uncovered during that trip that I listened to, in 19 days I listened to, I think it was like 8 audiobooks, just in my helmet, just let them roll. And I uncovered different things around, learn new things, saw different things, experienced new things, and so just let into that.
Mhm.
Anything else that you want to add, Jasmine, or last kind of words and adding around travel and the importance of it, on how to
Um,
how it helps you not burn out or prevents the burnout or helps you recover from it.
I really think it helps you recover from burnout.
Mm.
As in terms of, never really used it as prevention, uh, but definitely recovery. Or if you just feel like, oh, good, I'm getting back to that like sticky, really, really stressed spot, then it's like, okay, maybe it's time to break. And they always say, like, when you feel like you can't take a break is the moment you need to take a break the most.
Oh yeah.
And I feel I'm so bad at this with travel. Is like, I'm saying to Brad, like, what if I just took a week off, but I can't. And then it's like, that's the moment I really should take a freaking week off, you know? So I'm not perfect either, but
No.
um,
I guess on
yeah.
that prevention side, because I use it for prevention.
Mm-hmm.
So when I refer back, if we refer back to what I was saying around, like, even if you're just going for a walk, think of that as travel.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And so I use it when I used to commute to work all the time. I'm traveling to work. I'm doing a travel period, and I'm on my motorcycle, which brings me joy. So I love traveling by motorcycle. It's one of those just things
Mm-hmm.
that just lights my ass up. Is actually going, okay, cool. You can probably hear my dogs barking. They like barking at people now. But when we're traveling and when we're looking at different things, it's if we enjoy travel very much and we find that it really unlocks and overcomes burnout, if we can do it regularly, even if it's just once a week, just traveling to the coffee shop, and we use that as a purpose of, hey, this is going to help me prevent my burnout, it then shifts and changes us from, uh, and this is where I get to with clients, and that is, it's like they're like, oh, holding out for that vacation and that 2 week vacation once a year, and I'm like, you should be doing that every day, every week, every month. There should be something that is lighting you up that you're doing, that is, and if that's travel, well, how are you traveling? Are you going to see
Mm-hmm.
friends? Are you traveling across the city? Are you going to see something new? And that can help prevent that side of things. On that, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, and the word is important too. It's like, what does travel mean to you? Is travel just movement? What is vacation to you? Is vacation just the idea that you get to turn it off and not feel guilty about it? Because if
Mm-hmm.
so, then yeah, I'm gonna go to the coffee shop for a little vacation. I'm gonna
Yeah.
take a little vacation this weekend, you know.
Yeah.
I'm in Phoenix, so up to Sedona. We're gonna go on a little vacation this weekend. Or, we're gonna do a staycation, a vacation staycation where we're gonna go rent a hotel for the night or an Airbnb for the night. And it just set it, when you set the intention, like, I'm just gonna take off and not feel guilty about it. And I'm not gonna answer my inbox, and I'm not gonna, whatever it means for you, it's like, okay, well, yeah, how can you do that? And just
Mm-hmm.
use the same word.
Yeah.
Language creates the meaning that we experience. So
Yeah, there you go. I think we kind of leave. I think that's a great place to kind of leave it, because it is. It's so
yeah.
true. It's so true.
Mhm.
Your intention creates everything.
Yep.
Well, Jasmine, thanks again. And for those that are listening, I hope you got something out of that. Around, that last little bit is the biggest nugget, I think. Is one of the biggest nuggets. So it's, the intention of of the words that you're using. Language is everything. It
Mhm.
creates our focus. It creates how we hold ourselves. It creates everything. So yeah, but get out there and give it a go. Let us know as well how you like it, what you got from it, what you got from us having a conversation as two friends talking about travel. And yeah. Anything else that you want to add before we sign off,
I don't think
Jasmine?
so. Bon voyage.
Bon voyage. Yeah, that's the one. Awesome, guys. Well, remember, we are starting up a new season here in a few weeks that will be all first responders. And we're going to talk to first responders because, as we know, the last few years has probably been extremely stressful for them. Whether you believe in them, whether you are against them, whether you are for them, doesn't really matter. I can guarantee you can probably relate that it's a stressful and sometimes terrible job, but it's also the best job in the world. I've done it. I have experience in it. Uh, So we're going to start interviewing them and figure out what it is that they do to help prevent themselves from burning out, or if they are burning out, what we can help, how they can shift patterns to be able to actually, not to get out of that burnout when you're being under the pump all the time. So we can learn a lot from them because they are under the pump all the time, and you can take a lot away from it. So get ready for that. It's going to be a good season around this. And if you do need any assistance, remember our email is team@createfromwhy.com. And yeah, we will help you find that why, create productivity within yourself or wherever you want to, and go from there. Look forward to hearing from you guys soon. And thank you again, Jasmine.
Thanks for having me.